Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of NICTALKS. Interesting one for me, because lately I've been forced to really think about death a lot. I don't like thinking about it. It really, really makes me very, very scared. There's nothing like a nice little existential crisis to wake you up in the morning, and send you to bed at night with fear. But we all go through it, right? At some level. And the reason why I've been forced really to grapple with this, you see my cat in the background if you're watching this. The reason I've been forced to grapple with this is because for basically the entirety of this month, for the past 2 or 3 weeks, I have been faced to deal with the occurrence of my father's death. And death is not fun to deal with in general, but it is definitely strange when you have to deal with the death of somebody that you had a terrible and strange relationship with. And I've spoken about the way that my father has impacted me very, very openly on TikTok, on here, because it plays very much into my mental health journey and my mental health development, or lack thereof. Just, I guess, my mental health journey, because it is definitely a roller coaster. And it's been, it's a little, it's hard, to talk about the negative impact of a parent openly, not necessarily because you feel any guilt about it sometimes, but it's because of the pressure from outsiders to not, because we have this notion, especially amongst religious folk, an evangelical Christian frame of thought. That's still your father and you must honor your parents and all of this shit, which to me sometimes serves as a way to gaslight victims of abuse, who very, very often are children at the hands of their parents. Likewise, the same guilt that is inflicted upon, wives to obey their husbands, and and they very often are victims of abuse from their husbands. And so it's really hard sometimes, because people tell you people try to tell you how to heal. People try to tell you how to process your trauma. People want to tell you not to be angry. And I've had to get into the habit of telling people to back the fuck off and not tell me how to grieve, not tell me how to process my trauma, not tell me how to work through it. And that no amount of DNA shared excuses somebody from the evils that they have done to you, whether they're a parent, a sister, a brother, a cousin, an uncle, a grandparent, whatever. None of that excuses the choices that somebody made in life. And as one of my good friends, a fellow content creator, Amanda Just Vibin, says, everybody dies. And dying doesn't make you special. A lot of people don't like to speak ill of the dead, for various religious and superstitious reasons. But as Amanda said, dying does not make you special. Everybody does it, and you don't automatically gain a right to grace and forgiveness just because you died and you've crossed over to the next plane of existence or whatever. That does not make you special. And it's really funny, because as far as we know, that person that has crossed over does not is not really affected to the extent that we are used to being affected by what they leave behind. And that's kind of what I've been thinking about and I want to talk about today. It's so funny that we can be so concerned with the feelings of someone who can no longer feel in the way that we feel here on this earth. If there is a life after this one, they are not presently in this one, and that is what counts. There's a quote that always stuck with me from season 4, I think, of Sherlock, with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. And Sherlock is trying to convince someone, trigger warning, by the way, trying to convince someone not to commit suicide. And he says, your life is not your own. Keep your hands off of it. And he goes on to explain what he means by that. And he's like, when you die, you are not affected. It's the people that you leave behind that have to feel the grief, the loss, the sadness, to feel torn apart. You are not suffering anymore. You know, you presumably are not, you are not like you're not involved in this plane of existence anymore. But everybody that you leave behind, the people that you impacted, the people whose lives you were a part of and were a part of your life, they are impacted and they have to deal with the repercussions. They have to deal with the after effects of you dying. And you know, and it's really, and it might in a way sound counterintuitive to really even worry about how other people feel about your death, because you go in alone and you go out alone, right? And so really there may be fundamentally no intrinsic motivation or like, yeah, motivation to make sure that you leave a good mark on the people that you leave behind when you die, because it won't impact you. It won't presumably hurt you once you're gone. That's not a pain that you will experience. So why not be selfish and just do whatever you want in life? And honestly, to some extent, that is true. You come in alone, you go out alone, and so you really you honestly should do whatever makes you happy, and try to live a life that brings joy to you while you are on this earth. But at the same time, we are social creatures, are we not? And we have relationships that bring meaning to our lives. We choose to get married. We choose to have children. We choose to have pets. We choose to buy houses. We make a lot of choices. We make a lot of choices to really tether ourselves to other people. And I don't think that's something that should be taken lightly. I've been mourning the loss of a father for about 4 years now, because my father told me 4 years ago that I was dead to him as he is to me. After saying that he would pay me back a few $1,000s of money that I had loaned him throughout the years. This is what happens when you call out a narcissist. They would rather inflict unspeakable pain on you than to admit that they've done anything wrong. And so I've been going through that grieving process for about 4 years now, because that happened in 2018. And I moved on with my life as if he were dead, because I had to. I could not wait for his conditional love to cycle back to me. I was very aware that I was depressed and traumatized, and at the time, like, just really, really going through and just starting to navigate the difficulties of PTSD. And I knew that if I stayed tethered to him, that I would end up going down the same path of failure and anger and maybe even narcissism as he had. And so I let that go, and I operated in my life as if he were dead. And now he is, and it really just served as a confirmation that I did the right thing, because he went to his grave without acknowledging his wrongs. He went to his grave without asking forgiveness from me, and he went to his grave without apologizing. And because of that, because I've considered him dead for 4 years, and had just dealt with that absence of a father and grieved the fact that I will just never have a father, and I may never have a father figure in my life, which makes me immensely sad. It's something that I will always be missing, but it's something that I've already gone through the process of grieving. And so when it came time to deal with the details of burial and funeral arrangements, I felt very empty. I felt very just annoyed and weird and inconvenienced. Now, granted, grief is grief. Grief is strange, and I know that it's going to impact me in strange ways in the coming days and weeks and months. But nevertheless, I knew that if I had found out rather that my mother had died or my brother had died, or even some of the friends that I've made in the last few months had died, I know that I would be beside myself. I would be a wreck. I would need help. I would be in emotional distress. I know that. I know that they would have that impact on me. I know that they would have that impact on lots of people. But the sudden absence of my father in this life, the almost lack of visceral reaction was alarming. And it was very telling of just how many meaningful relationships he created and destroyed. How many people he pushed away to the point that even in death, so many can't be bothered to deal with you, including your own daughter. Now, like I said, depending on your belief system and really what we know, we don't know what happens to us when we die. And I don't know if he's able to witness anything that's going on. But if one were able to witness what happens after you die, I would think that you'd hope that you lived a life that brought you joy and satisfaction and pleasure, but also that you made meaningful and healthy connections, and that you were a positive influence and a positive force in the lives of others. You'd hope that people feel more than awkwardness when you die. I think that if he is able to see what's happening in the wake of his death right now, he'd be very unnerved and disappointed. But it would be he would be reaping what he sowed. And in a way, I believe that he is, and we all do. Like I said, we don't know if we're able to really see what happens after we die. A lot of people have fantasies about attending their own funeral to see how people react or like what people say about them. And hopefully we make a point to say the things that we want to say to the people that we want to say them to them before they die, because you will never hear your own eulogy. You know what I mean? But I think that if we care about being good people, truly, if we really, really care about what kind of person we amount to be, what we grow up to be, the kind of person that we die as, I think that we should really think about whether or not we are living in a way that not only makes us happy, but also positively impacts the people that we come into contact with. You know, I've always been one for self-care and putting yourself first, and I always will be. But like with everything there in life, there is a balance, and there has to be a balance between taking care of yourself, but also taking care of the people that you choose to form attachments to, the children that you choose to make, the people that you choose to date, to marry, to have sex with, to, you know, to cross paths with. And you're not going to please everybody. Not everybody's going to like you, and you're not going to like everybody. That's completely fine. But if the general sum of your life is so negative that the impact of your death amounts to nothing but an inconvenience, especially to the people whose hearts should be broken because of the part you chose to play in their lives. It's heartbreaking that I don't feel more. I feel like I've been cheated out of the ability to be heartbroken over the death of my father. No one should feel this cold. No one should feel this towards the death of their father. Yet that's what he left me with. Someone who was once, you know, I'd once do anything for their approval. At the end of their life, it amounted to that. And I think one thing that his death has taught me is that I don't want to end up like that. Even though presumably when I die, I will not get to suffer the impacts of my death, but I know who I might possibly leave behind. And I care about them, and I love them. And if I truly love them, I don't want my absence to be more of a bringer of peace than my presence on this earth. You know, you don't want the people you love to fall apart, you know, completely. You don't want their lives to completely go to shit just because you're gone. But you do want them to know that they were loved by you, right? You know, I go to this wonderful quote from WandaVision that Vision said, "What is grief but love persevering?" And, you know, you want the people that you leave behind to know that they were loved by you. You want people to know that they were cared for by you, that they mattered to you. Because that's what I was deprived of. At the end of my father's life, I was deprived of that assurance that I had the unconditional love of my father that will forever be something that I'll never have. And that is his legacy. And I don't want that to be my legacy. And I'm grateful that up to this point, I believe that I have lived a life in which my friends, my husband, my family members, know that they are loved by me, and that if I were to leave this earth today, that I leave them so much love. I leave them all the love that I have for them in this plane of existence right now. And that if I'm able to, after this, that I will send so much more if I'm able. Death is inconvenient. It's inconvenient not to you, but to the people that you leave behind. The money that goes into it, the planning. You have no idea how much it costs to just bury or cremate somebody. I'm finding that out. It's ridiculous. It's really dumb. Death is inconvenient. So, knowing that you will die one day, if you care, I hope you try and live your life in a way that if you were to disappear, if you were to leave today, the people in your life who you've formed attachments to, with special responsibility to people that you chose to create, people that you chose to share a life with, I hope that you would live in a way that they know that they were loved by you. Because there's nothing more sad than your death resulting in basically the worst game of hot potato ever, where no one wants to deal with, no one wants to like literally have your ashes. Like, it's awful. It's depressing. So anyway, that's that episode of Nick Talks. It's honestly making me a little anxious to talk about, but I really wanted to get it out, and I'm glad I did. And so I'm probably going to go take some medication because I'm feeling a little woo. But yeah, make sure you follow me on all my other social media. NICQUEMARINA on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and also YouTube. And I'll see you at the next episode. Thanks, guys.